Hello and welcome to week 5, which is lattice stitch. If you are just joining us, you can find the videos for the other 5 stitches in those posts on our website, or you can find them here on YouTube if that's how you found us. If you're using this as a standalone stitch and you're not working with us on the Summer Stitch Sampler Knit Along, then just remember this stitch is worked in multiples of 6 stitches and 8 rows. It's not reversible, and you will need a cable needle to work this pattern. So there are a few things I do want to go over with you about the written pattern as we go along. One of those things is I've used the phrase work stitches as they appear. What that means is as stitches are presenting on the needle and you're working them, you'll work them as they've been worked previously. So all of these, which were purls on this side, oh, I've got a bit of mulch there. So all of these that were purls on this side and present as knits on this side, you would knit those. And then down here where you see the 2 purl stitches, you're going to purl those, and so on all the way down. So I use that for a lot of the odd rows. Okay. You'll also want to take a minute to familiarize yourself with the abbreviations that we're using. So there are 4 different cable abbreviations. There's C4B, C4F, CR4B, and CL4F. So you probably already know that left and front are the same abbreviation, because if you're working a cable of 4, which each of these are, that use 4 stitches, left and front mean the same thing. They mean that 2 of the stitches are held in the front and then moved over, so it creates a swoop to the left. And then back and right, the same thing. 2 stitches are held in the back, so what you see in the front is these 2 stitches coming across the front, and it makes a right slant. Okay. So when we talk about C4B and CR4B, essentially what we're saying is you are going to be working 2 stitches to the back, which creates a right slant. The only difference between the C4B and the CR4B is the CR4B requires you to purl the 2 stitches that are going to cross in the front instead of knit them. Same thing with C4L and CL4F. Those are of course going to be in the front that create a left slant. But with the CL4F, you're going to purl those stitches off of the cable needle instead of knit. It seems like a lot to remember, but if you can just remember that C4B and CR4B go the same way, the stitches will show up the way they're supposed to be worked. So those stitches you're supposed to purl have already been purled on the row before, and it's super easy to remember. I've got my cable needle here. We don't quite need it yet, but I've already worked the setup rows, and then there were the 2 stockinette rows, and then there were 2 setup rows to kind of establish your pattern before it was established. I worked those, and I've done 1 repeat of all the stitches. So we're going to start again with row 1. Get this giant tail out of the way. And with row 1, what we're going to do is we're going to knit 3, and we're going to C4B. So we're working 4 stitches, cable, so we're going to put 2 in the back, because remember it's C4B for back. Oops. We're going to work these 2 as knit stitches off the needle, and I'm not knitting into the back here. I am knitting into the right leg. They were just twisted from the way I purled before, because I am a combination knitter. And then we're going to work these 2 off of the cable needle. So that's your first twist. So you're starting to see the same kind of pattern emerge as we have before. Okay, so then I'm going to purl 2. Now if you're an adventurous knitter and you're looking to try something new, you can go rogue and do this without the cable needle. So sometimes when it's C4B, what I'll do is slide these back, pick these up, and create the twist before I even work the stitches. So you can try that if that's something you're interested in. If you're not afraid of dropping stitches and causing a disaster, which can happen in later rows, If you've worked several rows of it and you suddenly drop one and it starts to run, of course that can be problematic. Okay, so we'll do this one with the cable needle just so no one gets too panicked. So we're going to cable forward back. These two we knit. And then we've still got these guys on the cable needle back here. Gonna knit those. Purl two. And I am wrapping them quote unquote backwards. I'm a combination knitter. I've talked about this in other videos. So don't be alarmed if you don't wrap that way. Okay, and you end with a K3. And remember the K3 on either side, those are the border stitches. So if you're just trying to work this or apply it to another project, you would drop 3 of the stitches from the beginning and end of each row. For some that is all of the edge stitches, but for some the pattern kind of extends a little more and it'll say something like K7, so you would do a K4 there instead. Okay, so as I said, the wrong sides, I have worked the stitches as they appear. So what that means is I have purl right here, so I'm going to purl it and I'll go the way that you guys like to go on this side, since I remembered to wrap counterclockwise. Now this stitch was knit. It was actually purled last time around, but on this side it's presenting as a knit stitch. So we're going to knit that one and this one. These were purled, so we're going to keep purling. And this is just writing it this way is an easier way for a lot of folks to understand. If you're sitting there chanting to yourself, oh, I need to knit 2, oh, I need to purl 4. You know, sometimes we mix the numbers up or we lose count. But if you just know, knit whatever's coming your way that looks like a knit stitch and purl whatever's coming your way that looks like a purl stitch, it makes it a little bit easier to work the rows on what can be a little bit of a cumbersome pattern. It is not as cumbersome as last week. I heard from some folks that that was quite challenging. I hope that you were able to power through it. If not, reach out to me for help. This is your Afghan, so if you decide to just power on through, or if you decide to abandon that stitch altogether and replace it with something new, totally your choice, but I'm happy to help if you would like the help. So after I've worked that second row, you can see the pattern is starting to repeat itself. Okay, and of course this is a swatch, it's only 24 stitches. When you're actually working this across an Afghan, you're going to see a much prettier and more intricate cable. So I'll work row 3 with you just to discuss the CR4B, and that'll be it. I think once we've done that, you guys will pretty much understand the way this is going. So I'm going to start off knitting 3. Next, I'm going to purl 2. Now it looks a little weird because this cable's swooping over, but what we're doing is we're actually creating where the cable disappears to. Okay, so we're going to purl 2, knit 2, and now we're going to do our CR4B. So again, the 4 means we're working with 4 stitches. The C means we're going to cable. So we're going to cable 4 RB, right and back. And what that means is you're not putting these to the right, these are coming to the right because they're the stitches that will be visible. You're always going to knit the first 2 in this pattern. It's the back 2 that will change. And since we have the R in here, we know that we're going to purl these, okay? So we're going to purl this guy and purl this guy. As you can see, I'm just going to stop and show you that he was purled last row. I'm referring to the stitches like they're alive, but that's okay. That one was purled last row, and so that's an easy way for you to remember that you're supposed to purl the ones off the needle. Which row am I on? Oh my goodness, was I supposed to knit these or purl them? Well, they were purled the last time around, so purl them this time around. if you can. Oh goodness, I got a little tight. And if you don't have a cable needle, if this is your first cabling project, maybe you're new to knitting, what you can always use is a double pointed needle. You just want to be able to slide it on both sides. So even if you've got a short little circular, that could work. It might not be the most useful or fast option if that's all you have, but it will work. But a double pointed would be better. Okay, so there was a knit 7 at the end of there. So as you can see on both ends, we're reestablishing the pattern. Okay, and you can see the purls here that were purled the previous row. So it's meant to create almost a purl background that's behind these woven stitches. Okay, that look like lattice, which is how it's got its name. So that's it for this week. If you have questions, you can always ask them in the comments. You can ask them in the Facebook group. There will be links to both of those in the video, and if you're already on the website, there's also a link to the Facebook group there.